Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books here at the live studios in Radha Lane, Hare Krishna, Houston. Right down the road from Sri Sri Radha Nilamadhav. We're going to read the Srimad-Bhagavatam tonight. Surprise! I guess you're getting used to me by now. Hare Krishna. Okay, before we hear the Bhagavatam, we're going to hear Sanatana Goswami's prayer glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam to help us go deeper. Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram from Sri Krishna Lila Stava, texts 412 through 416 by Srila Sanatana Goswami, the older brother of Rupa Goswami. It goes like this. Sarva Shastabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight through all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandudita Ditya Shri Krishna Parivarsita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshak Shadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madikabando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nisdadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin atini chochatakara hanamuncha gadachin mam premnarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we reached the 26th chapter of the 4th canto. We're going to start with text 14. Narada Muni is continuing his narration of an allegorical story about a king named Puranjana. Puranjana went to the forest unnecessarily to kill animals, leaving guess who behind? The queen. Now he's come back and he's a little anxious because he can feel that the queen is not exactly copacetic. Text 14. At that time, King Puranjana was a little anxious, and he inquired from the household women, "My dear beautiful women, are you and your mistress all very happy like before, or not?" Purport. In this verse, the word Vedishat indicates King Prachinabarhi. When a man becomes refreshed by association with devotees and awakes to Krishna consciousness, he consults the activity of his mind, namely thinking, feeling, and willing. and decides whether he should return to his material activities or stay steady in spiritual consciousness. The word kushalam refers to that which is auspicious. One can make his home perfectly auspicious when he engages in devotional service to Lord Vishnu. When one is engaged in activities other than Vishnu Bhakti, or in other words, when one is engaged in material activities, he is always filled with anxieties. A sane man should consult his mind, its thinking, feeling, and willing processes, and decide how these processes should be utilized. If one always thinks of Krishna, feels how to serve him, and wills to execute the order of Krishna, it should be known that he has taken good instruction from his intelligence, which is called the mother. Although the king was refreshed, he nonetheless inquired about his wife. Thus he was consulting, thinking, and willing how he could return to his steady good consciousness. The mind may suggest that by Vishaya Bhoga, or sense enjoyment, one can become happy. But when one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness, he does not derive happiness from material activities. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita 2:59. Vishaya vinivartante nirahara siddhina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, although the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements, by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. One cannot be unattached to the sense objects unless he finds better engagement in devotional service. Param drishtva nivartate. One can cease from material activities only when one actually engages in devotional service. Text 15. King Puranjana said, I do not understand why my household paraphernalia does not attract me as before. I think that if there is neither a mother nor devoted wife at home, the home is like a chariot without wheels. Where is the fool who will sit down on such an unworkable chariot? Purport. The great politician Chanika Pandit said, Mata yasya grihe nasti bharya cha priyavadini aranyam tenagantavyam yataranyam tata griham. If a person has neither a mother nor a pleasing wife at home, he should leave home and go to the forest, because for him there is no difference between the forest and home. The real mata, or mother, is devotional service to the Lord, and the real patni, or devoted wife, is a wife who helps her husband execute religious principles in devotional service. These two things are required for a happy home. Actually, a woman is supposed to be the energy of a man. Historically, in the background of every great man, there is either a mother or a wife. One's household life is very successful if he has both a good wife and mother. In such a case, everything about household affairs and all the paraphernalia in the house becomes very pleasing. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had both a good mother and pleasing wife, and he was very happy at home. Nonetheless, for the benefit of the whole human race, he took sannyas and left both his mother and wife. In other words, it is essential that one have both a good mother and wife in order to become perfectly happy at home. Otherwise, home life has no meaning. Unless one is religiously guided by intelligence and renders devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his home can never become very pleasing to a saintly person. In other words, if a man has a good mother or a good wife, there is no need of his taking sannyas. That is, unless it is absolutely necessary, as it was for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 16. Now take notes so you can ask questions at the end now. Herein we see that King Puranjana was searching after his good wife, who always helped him out of the dangerous situations that always occur in material existence. As already explained, a real wife is Dharmapatni. That is, a woman accepted in marriage by ritualistic ceremony is called Dharmapatni, which signifies that she is accepted in terms of religious principles. Children born of Dharmapatni, or a woman married according to religious principles, inherit the property of the father, but children born of a woman who is not properly married do not inherit the father's property. The word Dharmapatni also refers to a chaste wife. A chaste wife is one who never had any connection with men before her marriage. Once a woman is given the freedom to mingle with all kinds of men in her youth, it is very difficult for her to keep chaste. She generally cannot keep chaste. When butter is brought into the proximity of fire, it melts. The woman is like fire, and the man is like butter. But if one gets a chaste wife, accepted through a religious marriage ritual, she can be of great help when one is threatened by the many dangerous situations of life. Actually, such a wife can become the source of all good intelligence. With such a good wife, the family's engagement in the devotional service of the Lord actually makes a home a grihastha ashram, or household dedicated to spiritual cultivation. Text 17. All the women address the king. O master of the citizens, we do not know why your dear wife has taken on this sort of existence. O killer of enemies, kindly look. She is lying on the ground without bedding. We cannot understand why she is acting in this way. Purport. When a person is devoid of devotional service or Vishnu Bhakti, he takes to many sinful activities. King Puranjana left home, neglected his own wife, and engaged himself in killing animals. This is the position of all materialistic men. They do not care for a married, chaste wife. They take the wife only as an instrument for sense enjoyment, not as a means for devotional service. To have unrestricted sex life, the karmis work very hard. They have concluded that the best course is to have sex with any woman. Simply pay the price for her, and as though she were a mercantile commodity. Thus they engage their energy in working very hard for such material acquisitions. Such materialistic people have lost their good intelligence. They must search out their intelligence within the heart. A person who does not have a chaste wife, accepted by religious principles, always has a bewildered intelligence, unless he's a sannyasi. Hare Krishna. The wife of or brahmachari, real brahmachari. The wife of King Puranjana was lying on the ground because she was neglected by her husband. Actually, the woman must always be protected by her husband. We always speak of the goddess of fortune as being placed on the chest of Narayana. In other words, the wife must remain embraced by her husband, thus she becomes beloved and well protected. Just as one saves his money and places it under his own personal protection, one should similarly protect his wife by his own personal supervision. Just as intelligence is always within the heart, so a beloved chaste wife should always have her place on the chest of a good husband. This is the proper relationship between husband and wife. A wife is therefore called ardhangani, or half of the body. One cannot excuse me, I just lost my way. One cannot remain. What is? Yes, got it. One cannot remain with only one leg, one hand, or only one side of the body. He must have two sides. Similarly, according to nature's way, husband and wife should live together. In the lower species of life, among birds and animals, it is seen that by nature's arrangement, the husband and wife live together. It is similarly ideal in human life for the husband and wife to live together. The home should be a place for devotional service, and the wife should be chaste and accepted by a ritualistic ceremony. In this way, one can become happy at home. Text 18. The great sage Narada continued, "My dear King Prachinibarhi, as soon as King Puranjana saw his queen lying on the ground, appearing like a mendicant, he immediately became bewildered." Purport. In this verse, the word avadutam is especially significant, for it refers to a mendicant who does not take care of his body. Since the queen was lying on the ground without bedding and proper dress, King Puranjana became very much aggrieved. In other words, he repented that he had neglected his intelligence and had engaged himself in the forest in killing animals. In other words, when one's good intelligence is separated or neglected, he fully engages in sinful activities. Due to neglecting one's good intelligence or Krishna consciousness, one becomes bewildered and engages in sinful activities. Upon realizing this, a man becomes repentant. Such repentance is described by Narottam Das Thakur. Hari Hari Bipode Janamai Goainu Manushna Janamapaya Radha Krishna Nabhajiya Janiya Shuniya Vishakainu. Narottam Das Thakur herein says that he repents for having spoiled his human life and knowingly drunk poison. By not being Krishna conscious, one willingly drinks the poison of material life. The purport is that one certainly becomes addicted to sinful activities when he becomes devoid of his good chaste wife, or when he has lost his good sense and does not take to Krishna consciousness. Text 19. The king, with a grieved mind, began to speak to his wife with very pleasing words. Although he was filled with regret and tried to pacify her, he could not see any symptom of anger caused by love within the heart of his beloved wife. Purport. The king very much regretted having left his queen and having gone to the forest to execute sinful activities. When a person regrets his sinful activities, the abandoning of Krishna consciousness and good intelligence, his path of deliverance from the path of material clutches is opened. As stated in Srimad-Bhagavatam 555, Prabhavas tavat abodha jato yavan najigyasata atmatatvam. When a person loses his Krishna consciousness and loses interest in self-realization, he must engage in sinful activities. All one's activities in a life devoid of Krishna consciousness simply lead to defeat and misuse of one's life. Naturally, one who comes to Krishna consciousness regrets his previous sinful activities in the human form. Only by this process can one be delivered from the clutches. Only by this process can one be delivered from the clutches of nations or ignorance in materialistic life. Text 20. Because the king was very expert in flattery, he began to pacify his queen very slowly. First he touched her 2 feet, then embraced her nicely, sitting her on his lap, and began to speak as follows. Purport. One has to awaken his Krishna consciousness by first regretting his past deeds. Just as King Puranjana began to flatter his queen, one should by deliberate consideration raise himself to the platform of Krishna consciousness. To attain such an end, one must touch the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Krishna consciousness cannot be achieved by self-endeavor. One must therefore approach a self-realized Krishna conscious person and touch his lotus feet. Prahlad Maharaj therefore said, Naisham matis tavarurukramangrim sprishat janartha Pagamo yadartaha mahiyasang paradasho vishekam nishkinchananam nivritti yavat. Bhagavatam 7:5 32. One cannot come to the precincts of Krishna consciousness unless he touches the dust of the lotus feet of a person who has become a Mahatma, a great devotee. This is the beginning of the surrendering process. Lord Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him, and this surrendering process begins when one touches the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. By sincerely rendering service to a bona fide spiritual master, one begins his spiritual life in Krishna consciousness. Touching the lotus feet of a spiritual master means giving up one's false prestige and unnecessarily puffed up position in the material world. Those who remain in the darkness of material existence due to their falsely prestigious positions, so-called scientists and philosophers, are actually atheists. They do not know the ultimate cause of everything. Although bewildered, they are not ready to surrender themselves to the lotus feet of a person who knows things in their proper perspective. In other words, one cannot arouse Krishna consciousness simply by his own mental speculation. One must surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. Only this process will help one. Text 21. King Puranjana said, "My dear beautiful wife, when a master accepts a servant as his own man, but does not punish him for his offenses, the servant must be considered unfortunate." Purport. According to Vedic civilization, domestic animals and servants are treated exactly like one's own children. Animals and children are sometimes punished not out of vengeance, but out of love. Similarly, a master sometimes punishes his servant, not out of vengeance, but out of love, to correct him and bring him to the right point. Thus King Puranjana took his punishment dealt by his wife, the queen, as mercy upon him. He considered himself the most obedient servant of the queen. She was angry at him for his sinful activities, namely hunting in the forest and leaving her at home. King Puranjana accepted the punishment as actual love and affection from his wife. In the same way, when a person is punished by the laws of nature, by the will of God, he should not be disturbed. A real devotee thinks in this way. When a devotee is put into an awkward position, he takes it as the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Tate nukampam susamikshimano bunjana evat makritam vipakam ridvag vapurabir vidinan manaste jive tayo muktipade sadayabha. That's Bhagavatam 10:14-8. This verse states that the devotee accepts a reversal of his position in life as a benediction by the Lord, and consequently offers the Lord more obeisances and prayers, thinking that punishment is due to his past misdeeds, and that the Lord is punishing him very mildly. The punishment awarded by the state or by God for one's own faults is actually for one's benefit. In the Manu Samhita, it is said that the king should be considered merciful when he condemns a murderer to death, because a murderer punished in this life becomes freed from his sinful activity, and in the next life takes birth cleared of all sins. If one accepts punishment as a reward dealt by the master, I want to repeat this sentence about 3 or 4 times because it's an extremely important sentence. This is the most beautiful, paraphrase of this Tattenu Kampam Sumishram that I've ever read, and it's coming straight from Prabhupada's heart. Just listen to this sentence. If one accepts punishment as a reward dealt by the master, he becomes intelligent enough not to commit the same mistake again. If one accepts punishment as a reward dealt by the master, he becomes intelligent enough not to commit the same mistake again. One more time. If one accepts punishment as a reward dealt by the master, he becomes intelligent enough not to commit the same mistake again. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Text 22. My dear slender maiden, when a master chastises his servant, the servant should accept this as great mercy. One who becomes angry must be very foolish not to know that such is the duty of his friend. Purport. It is said that when a foolish man is instructed in something very nice, he generally cannot accept it. Indeed, he becomes angry. Such anger is compared to the poison of a serpent. For when a serpent is fed milk and bananas, its poison actually increases. Instead of becoming merciful or sober, the serpent increases its poisonous venom, which, when fed nice foodstuffs. Similarly, when a fool is instructed, he does not rectify himself, but actually becomes angry. Text 23. This is the greatest psychology book anywhere. You can learn everything from this book. Everything. Prabhupada said, if you study this Bhagavatam and learn it, you will have 12 PhDs. You'll be a completely educated person. My dear wife, your teeth are very beautifully set, and your attractive features make you appear very thoughtful. Kindly give up your anger. Be merciful upon me. Please smile upon me with loving attachment. When I see a smile on your beautiful face, and when I see your hair, which is as beautiful as the color blue, and see your raised nose, and hear your sweet talk, you will become more beautiful to me and thus attract me and oblige me. You are my most respected mistress. Purport. An effeminate husband Purport. An effeminate husband, simply being attracted by the external beauty of his wife, tries to become her most obedient servant. Sripad Shankaracharya has therefore advised that we not become attracted by a lump of flesh and blood. The story is told that at one time a man, very much attracted to a beautiful woman, wooed the woman in such a way that she devised a plan to show him the ingredients of her beauty. The woman made a date to see him, and before seeing him she took a purgative, and that whole day and night she simply passed stool, and she preserved that stool in a pot. The next day, when the man came to see her, she appeared very ugly and emaciated. When the man inquired from her about the woman with whom he had an engagement, she replied, "I am that very woman." The man refused to believe her, not knowing that she had lost all her beauty due to the violent purgative that caused her to be passed stool day and night. When the man began to argue with her, the woman said that she was not looking beautiful because she was separated from the ingredients of her beauty. When the man asked how she could be so separated, the woman said, "Come on and I will show you." She then showed him the pot filled with liquid stool and vomit. Thus the man became aware that a beautiful woman is simply a lump of matter composed of blood, stool, urine, and similar other disgusting ingredients. This is the actual fact. But in a state of illusion, man becomes attracted by illusory beauty and becomes a victim of Maya, the truth, the naked truth. King Puranjana begged his queen to return to her original beauty. He tried to revive her, just as a living entity tries to revive his original consciousness, Krishna consciousness, which is very beautiful. All the beautiful features of the queen can be compared to the beautiful features of Krishna consciousness. When one returns to his original Krishna consciousness, he actually becomes steady and his life becomes successful. Text 24. O hero's wife, kindly tell me if someone has offended you. I am prepared to give such a person punishment as long as he does not belong to the Brahmana caste. But for the servant of Muraripu, Krishna, this is nice, Muraripu. Now that's a nice name. Muraripu. But for the servant of Muraripu, Krishna, I excuse no one within or beyond these three worlds. No one can freely move after offending you, for I am prepared to punish him. Muraripu. Oh, the enemy of Mura. Muraripu. Muraripu. Nice name. Purport. According to Vedic civilization, a Brahmana, or one who is properly qualified to understand the absolute truth, that is, one belonging to the most intelligent social order, as well as the devotee of Lord Krishna, who is known as Muradvisha, enemy of a demon named Mura, is not subject to the rules and regulations of the state. In other words, upon breaking the laws of the state, everyone can be punished by the government except the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas never transgress the laws of the state or the laws of nature, because they know perfectly well the resultant reactions caused by such law-breaking. We can send a note to Trump. It says right here, everyone can be punished by the government except the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So send a note to Trump. Tell him to become a Vaishnava or a Brahmana, and then he'll get out of all this trouble that he's in. Right? Even though they may sometimes appear to violate the laws, they are not to be punished by the king. This instruction was given to King Prachanibarishad by Narada Muni. King Puranjana was a representative of King Prachanibarishad, and Narada Muni was reminding King Prachanibarishad of his forefather, Maharaj Prithu, who never chastised a Brahmana or a Vaishnava. One's pure intelligence or pure Krishna consciousness becomes polluted by material activities. One's pure intelligence or pure Krishna consciousness becomes polluted by material activities. Pure consciousness can be revived by the process of sacrifice, charity, pious activities, etc. But when one pollutes his Krishna consciousness by offending a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, it is very difficult to revive. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described the Vaishnava aparad, or offense to a Vaishnava, as the mad elephant offense. One should be very careful not to offend a Vaishnava or a Brahmana. Even the great yogi Durvasa was harassed by the Sudarshan Chakra when he offended the Vaishnava Maharaj Ambarish, who was neither a Brahmana nor a sannyasi, but an ordinary householder. Maharaj Ambarish was a Vaishnava, and consequently Durvasa Muni was chastised. The conclusion is that if Krishna consciousness is covered by material sins, one can eliminate the sins simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. But if one pollutes his consciousness by offending a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, one cannot revive it until one properly atones for the sin by pleasing the offended Vaishnava or Brahmana. This was the course that Durvasa Muni had to follow, for he surrendered unto Maharaj Ambarish. A Vaishnava aparad cannot be atoned for by any means other than by begging the pardon of the offended Vaishnava. Text 25. My dear wife, until this day I have never seen your face without tilak decorations, nor have I seen you so morose or without luster or affection, nor have I seen your two nice breasts wet with tears from your eyes, nor have I ever seen before your lips, which are ordinarily as red as the bimba fruit, without their reddish hue. Purport. Every woman looks very beautiful when decorated with tilak and vermilion. A woman generally becomes very attractive when her lips are colored with reddish saffron or vermilion, but when one's consciousness and intelligence are without any brilliant thoughts about Krishna, they become morose and lusterless, so much so that one cannot derive any benefit despite sharp intelligence. Such nice lessons. Text 26. My dear Queen, my dear Queen, due to my sinful desires, I went to the forest to hunt without asking you. Therefore, I must admit that I have offended you. Nonetheless, thinking of me as your most intimate subordinate, you should still be very much pleased with me. Factually, I am very much bereaved, but being pierced by the arrow of Cupid, I am feeling lusty. But where is the beautiful woman who would give up her lusty husband and refuse to unite with him? Purport. Both man and woman desire one another. That is the basic principle of material existence. Women in general always keep themselves beautiful so that they can be attractive to their lusty husbands. When a lusty husband comes before his wife, the wife takes advantage of his aggressive activities and enjoys life. Generally, when a woman is attacked by a man, whether her husband or some other man, she enjoys the attack being too lusty. In other words, when one's intelligence is properly utilized, both the intellect and the intelligent person enjoy one another with great satisfaction. As stated in the Srimad-Bhagavatam 7.9.45, Yan maitunadi grihamedhi sukham hituchjam kandu yanena kadayo iva dukkha dukkam. The actual happiness of the karmis is sex life. They work very hard outside the home, and to satiate their hard labor, they come home to enjoy sex life. King Puranjana went to the forest to hunt, and after his hard labor, he returned home to enjoy sex life. If a man lives outside the home and spends a week in a city or somewhere else, at the end of the week, he becomes very anxious to return home and enjoy sex with his wife. This is confirmed in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Yan maitunadi grihamedi sukham hitucham. Karmis work very hard simply to enjoy sex. Modern human society has improved the materialistic way of life simply by inducing unrestricted sex life in many different ways. This is most prominently visible in the Western world. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 26th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled King Puranjana Goes to the Forest to Hunt and his queen becomes angry. Okay. Chapter 27. Attack by Chandavega on the city of King Puranjana, the character of Kalakanya. Text 1. The great sage Narada continued, My dear king, after bewildering her husband in different ways and bringing him under her control, the wife of King Puranjana gave him all satisfaction and enjoyed sex life with him. Purport. After hunting in the forest, King Puranjana returned home, and after refreshing himself by taking a bath and eating nice food, he searched for his wife. When he saw her lying down on the ground without a bed, as if neglected and devoid of any proper dress, he became much aggrieved. He then became attracted to her and began to enjoy her company. A living entity is similarly engaged in the material world in sinful activities. These sinful activities may be compared to King Puranjana's hunting in the forest. A sinful life can be counteracted by various processes of religion, such as yajna, vrata, and dana, that is, the performance of sacrifices, the taking of a vow for some religious ritual, and the giving of charity. In this way, one may become free from the reactions of sinful life and at the same time awaken his original Krishna consciousness. By coming home, taking his bath, eating nice foodstuffs, getting refreshed, and searching out his wife, King Puranjana came to his good consciousness in his family life. In other words, a systematic family life, as enjoined in the Vedas, is better than an irresponsible sinful life. If a husband and wife combine together in Krishna consciousness and live together peacefully, that is very nice. However, if a husband becomes too much attracted by his wife and forgets his duty in life, the implications of materialistic life will again resume. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore recommended anasaktasya vishayan. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-2, 255. Without being attached by sex, the husband and wife may live together for the advancement of spiritual life. The husband should engage in devotional service, and the wife should be faithful and religious according to the Vedic injunctions. Such a combination is very good. However, if the husband becomes too much attracted to the wife due to sex, the position becomes very dangerous. Women in general are very much sexually inclined. Indeed, it is said that a woman's sex desire is 9 times stronger than a man's. It is therefore a man's duty to keep a woman under his control by satisfying her, giving her ornaments, nice food and clothes, and engaging her in religious activities. Of course, a woman should have a few children, and in this way not be disturbing to the man. Unfortunately, if the man becomes attracted to the woman simply for sex enjoyment, then family life becomes abominable. The great politician, Chanakya Pandit, has said, Bharya Rupavati Shatru. A beautiful wife is an enemy. Of course, every woman, in the eyes of her husband, is very beautiful. Others may say her is not very beautiful, but the husband, being very much attracted to her, sees her always as very beautiful. If the husband sees a wife as very beautiful, it is to be assumed that he is too much attracted to her. This attraction is the attraction of sex. The whole world is captivated by the 2 modes of material nature, Rajaguna and Tamaguna, passion and ignorance. Generally, women are very much passionate and are less intelligent. Therefore, somehow or other, a man should not be under the control of their passion and ignorance. By performing bhakti yoga or devotional service, a man can be raised to the platform of goodness. If a husband situated in the mode of goodness can control his wife, who is in passion and ignorance, the woman is benefited. Forgetting her natural inclination for passion and ignorance, the woman becomes obedient and faithful to her husband, who is situated in goodness. Such a life becomes very welcome. The intelligence of the man and woman may then work very nicely together, and they can make a progressive march towards spiritual realization. Otherwise, the husband, coming under the control of the wife, sacrifices his quality of goodness and becomes subservient to the qualities of passion and ignorance. In this way, the whole situation becomes polluted. The conclusion is that a household life is better than a sinful life devoid of responsibility. But if in the household life the husband becomes subordinate to the wife, involvement in materialistic life again becomes prominent. In this way, a man's material bondage becomes enhanced. Because of this, according to the Vedic system, after a certain age, a man is recommended to abandon his family for the stages of vanaprastha and sannyas. Text 2. The queen took her bath and dressed herself nicely with all auspicious garments and ornaments. After taking food and becoming completely satisfied, she returned to the king. Upon seeing her beautifully decorated, attractive face, the king welcomed her with all devotion. Purport. A woman is generally accustomed to dress herself nicely with fine garments and decorative ornaments. She may even sometimes wear flowers in her hair. Women especially dress themselves up in the evening because the husband comes home in the evening after working hard all day. It is the duty of the wife to dress herself up very nicely so that when the husband returns home, he becomes attracted by her dress and cleanliness, and thus becomes satisfied. In other words, the wife is the inspiration of all good intelligence. Upon seeing one's wife dressed nicely, one can think very soberly about family business. When a person is too anxious about family affairs, he cannot discharge his family duties nicely. A wife is therefore supposed to be an inspiration and should keep the husband's intelligence in good order so that they can combinedly prosecute the affairs of family life without impediment. Text 3. Queen Puranjana embraced the king, and the king also responded by embracing her shoulders. In this way, in a solitary place, they enjoyed joking words. Thus King Puranjana became very much captivated by his beautiful wife and deviated from his good sense. He forgot that the passing of days and nights meant that his span of life was being reduced without profit. Purport. The word pramada in this verse is very significant. A beautiful wife is certainly enlivening to her husband, but at the same time is the cause of degradation. The word pramada means enlivening as well as maddening. Generally, a householder does not take the passing of days and nights very seriously. A person in ignorance takes it as the usual course that days come, and after the days, the nights come. This is the law of material nature. But a man in ignorance does not know that when the sun rises early in the morning, it begins to take away the balance of his life. Thus, day after day, the span of one's life is reduced. And forgetting the duty of human life, the foolish man simply remains in the company of his wife and enjoys her in a secluded place. Such a condition is called aprakrishta chetana, or degraded consciousness. Human consciousness should be used for elevation to Krishna consciousness. Human consciousness should be used, human consciousness should be used for elevation to Krishna consciousness. But when a person is too much attached to his wife and family affairs, he does not take Krishna consciousness very seriously. He thus becomes degraded, not knowing that he cannot buy back even a second of his life in return for millions of dollars. The greatest loss in life is passing time without understanding Krishna. Every moment of our lives should be utilized properly. And the proper use of life is to increase devotional service to the Lord. Without devotional service to the Lord, the activities of life become simply a waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Simply by being dutiful, we do not make any profit in life. As confirmed in Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.2.8, Dharmak sanustitak pungsam vishwaksena kadasuya notpadayat yariritim shama eva hi kevalam. If, after performing one's occupational duty very perfectly, one does not make progress in Krishna consciousness, it should be understood that he has simply wasted his time in valueless labor. Text 4. In this way, increasingly overwhelmed by illusion, King Puranjana, although advanced in consciousness, remained always lying down with his head on the pillow of his wife's arms. In this way, he considered woman to be his ultimate life and soul. Becoming thus overwhelmed by the mode of ignorance, he could not understand the meaning of self-realization, or his self, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of his self, or of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Human life is meant for self-realization. First of all, one has to realize his own self, which is described in this verse as nijam. Then he has to understand or realize the Supersoul, or Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, when one becomes too much materially attached, he takes a woman to be everything. This is the basic principle of material attachment. In such a condition, one cannot realize his own self or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Srimad-Bhagavatam 5.5.2, it is therefore said, Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Mamuktes Tamo Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. If one associates with Mahatmas or devotees, his path of liberation is opened. But if one becomes too much attached to women, or to persons who are also attached to women, that is, attached to women directly or indirectly, he opens the Tamodwaram, the door to the darkest region of hellish life. King Puranjana was a great soul, highly intellectual, and possessed of advanced consciousness, but due to his being too much addicted to women, his whole consciousness was covered. In the modern age, the consciousness of people is too much covered by wine, women, and flesh. Consequently, people are completely unable to make any progress in self-realization. The first step of self-realization is to know oneself as spirit soul, apart from the body. In the second stage of self-realization, one comes to know that every soul, every individual living entity, is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 5.7. Mamai vangsho jiva loke jiva bhutak sanatanaha manakshastranindriyani prakristani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal, fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. All living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, in this present civilization, both men and women are allowed to be attracted to one another from the very beginning of life, and because of this, they are completely unable to come to the platform of self-realization. They do not know that without self-realization, they suffer the greatest loss in the human form of life. Thinking of a woman always within one's heart is tantamount to lying down with a woman on a valuable bedstead. The heart is the bedstead, and it is the most valuable bedstead. When a man thinks of women and money, he lies down and rests on the arms of his beloved woman or wife. In this way, he overindulges in sex life and thus becomes unfit for self-realization. Hare Krishna. And we'll stop our reading for tonight, and we'll have what we now call the new open mic. This is it. Sometimes they have like clubs where they have open mics and you can just get up there and just, do your thing. Here's the open mic session of the three. Who dares to venture into this subject? Go ahead. Go ahead. First one up. Go ahead. All right, the local saints. They're going to do it. Sarvama.
Seems like generally that the queen is a representative of material intelligence. So I didn't quite follow when he went to the forest and neglected the queen. According to the general pattern, it seemed like that would be a good thing, but then it seemed like it would describe that then he was going against his higher good intelligence.
Oh, you've captured the essence of the allegory. This is the essence of the allegory. Because he going to the forest and killing animals like he did represented doing things sinfully. And the wife represented his good intelligence that kept him from doing those things.
Other times it seemed like she was
Yeah, that's the beauty of Vaishnava and allegories, in Vaishnava poetry. It can say the thing plain as it is, but in such a way that's so clever you go, really? But what about this? What about that? It's like that. To help attract us to something that in a normal sense might not be so attractive. Actually, men and women are always attracted to one another Prabhupada told us that if you have more than one person in a room, you have a political situation. Shall I say that again? If you have more than one person in a room, you have a political situation. And the more attached we are to the material world, then it increases. And when a woman walks into the room, then you have an interesting political situation. And the atmosphere always changes, no matter who is in the room. No matter who. There you go. You see? The hero. The man, the hero. James Bond can do it. That's the way it is. So we should learn from this. We should learn from being in the material world, and we should learn by history, by seeing every single time it happens again and again and again and again and again. We get too entangled with one another, and we forget our spiritual lives, and then we get so much wrapped up in our own false ego, and whether we're a man or a woman or this or that or the other thing, whatever we think we are, we're none of those things. So these instructions are not actually meant for Vaishnavas, pure Vaishnavas, Mahabhagavad Vaishnavas, man or woman, doesn't make a difference. They live those duties of material life and live together and even have children and families and dynasties and whatever. But at the end, you've seen every single Mahabhagavat couple, what do? They go to the forest. And the man becomes perfect. And when he bursts into flame, the woman just jumps into the flame and goes with him to the spiritual world. That's it. Now that doesn't mean that we should try to duplicate that now in this age, but it does mean that whether we're man or a woman, we have to take to our spiritual life. And if we don't take to our spiritual life seriously, then we will be seriously, debilitated. And we will not be able to enjoy truly from our heart the spiritual platform. We will be forced to sometimes enjoy and sometimes suffer and sometimes all these things that are going on, especially in the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel. And everyone is quarreling even over trifles, as Prabhupada would say. Even over trifles that mean nothing. Insignificant things. And we will fight all day and night over them. So when Vaishnavas fight, then they should come together and they should bow down on the ground and they should embrace one another and they should beg forgiveness from one another. Tears in the eyes. Please forgive me. And that's the process for becoming free from offense and situated in spiritual, blissful, loving dealings as spirit souls. Hare Krishna. That's my thought for the day. Okay, mic's still open. You got 10 minutes.
I'll reflect.
Okay, reflect. We're going to get our doctor's opinion on this subject.
Well, I heard the last couple of lectures or chapters, and it goes on still these days, like where I would say we would call men pigs, sorry, or it's really with the multiple women, and I see the corollary of him going to the forest similar to being so aggressive, killing animals, versus when he's out in the material world, he's having lots of women. That's my interpretation of it. So it's, I would say, too much testosterone. And you see this so many years later, it's the same. It's the same, so. And for one, he's whipped, so I guess these days, that's why? Why?
No, then, if that's not enough, then they'll go to some club and they'll pay good money to have a woman stand over him and whip him.
Was that really where it came from?
There you go. No, they pay good money, you know. And Prabhupada used to joke about France. You know, they have these really heavy clubs in France, and they probably have even worse now, but this was a long time ago. This was 40, 50 years ago. And men who were like, you know, 70, 80 years old, going to these clubs and paying good money to get in the door, and then once they're in the door, then they can pay good money to be with women however they want. It's classic, and the Bhagavatam is just explaining it. You know, that's why every syllable is actually full of prema, because it actually opens our eyes to material existence and what it is and what it does to us, and how it impedes our real life, our spiritual life, where we want to think of Krishna, where we want to see others as parts of Krishna, and can actually live a happy life. But that consciousness, you can't live a happy life. You must compete with others. You must fight with others over anything and everything. So we, as the Christian consciousness movement, we're supposed to be teaching the world how not to do that. Hare Krishna. And with that, I am going to leave you all and get ready to go up early in the morning and read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Srila Prabhupada is ecstatically taking apart the Mayavad philosophy, which is justifying all of this kind of behavior. Because if there's no God in control, if God is not a person, then we're not really responsible for anything, anyone, and we can do all these things. Hare Krishna. Therefore, nirvishesha shunyavadi, paschatya deshatadane. Prabhupada came to save us from this. And we can be saved from this. We can stop acting like idiots. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Oh, one announcement first. Thursday is Tamal Krishna Maharaj's disappearance day. And I am burning to go and speak and glorify him in front of the devotees. I have some things to say, actually, that I've been thinking about. So that's going to start at 7. So we're going to start here at 5:30. Is it okay? Is it okay? Is it okay? Okay. So everybody out in cyberspace, on Thursday, we're going to start at 5:30 Central Time, USA. And tomorrow I'll see you at the same time, same station, 6:30 Central Time. Is that clear or not? Okay, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Jai Prabhupada.